Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. We have some breaking news for you out of Moscow, Idaho, and specifically the Second Judicial Circuit, Latah County, a matter that Judge Megan E. Marshall is presiding over. This is a public records lawsuit that was filed by EWU Media LLC as the plaintiff versus City of Moscow, Moscow Police Department as the defendant. And we have portions of the docket available for your review on our community page, our sister YouTube channel. I provided a link for you in the description to this podcast episode so you can take a look at it. Now, the plaintiff, EWU Media LLC, has sued the City of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department. This is a public records matter. It's a dispute over the release of public records. And what is quite interesting is who the intervenors are. They are the plaintiffs from K.Laramie et al. Versus City of Moscow, represented by the same attorney who represented them last year. This is Mr. Leander as attorney for the intervenors, and they are K.Laramie as intervenor, Stacy Chapin as intervenor, James Chapin as intervenor, Maisie Chapin as intervenor. Now, what is an intervenor? Perhaps the best example if you followed the Kohberger case. During the time that it was active, the 2.5 years plus that it was, commencing coincidentally before Judge Megan E. Marshall back on December 29, 2022, when Judge Marshall herself signed the order finding probable cause based on the affidavit of probable cause that was signed by Detective Brett Payne that day, and she also signed the warrant for Mr. Kohberger's arrest. It's the same judge presiding over this case, EWU Media LLC versus City of Moscow, and Moscow Police Department, who also presided over K.Laramie et al. Versus City of Moscow, Moscow Police Department last year. The plaintiffs, K.Laramie, Chapin, Stacy, James Chapin, Maisie Chapin, through the same attorney, convinced Judge Marshall to enter a restraining order, an injunction, preventing the City of Moscow from releasing images from the Moscow Police Department's investigatory files into the crimes at 1122 King Road. Now, what is an intervenor? Best example that we could provide to you at this time would be when Idaho versus Kohberger was active, Media Coalition as intervenors. They weren't the plaintiff. That would be State of Idaho. They were not the defendant. That would be Mr. Kohberger. But these were interested parties who believed they had a stake in the action. The media, who attempted to convince Judge John Judge back in 2023. And then later in 2025, Judge Stephen J. Hippler to set aside the gag order that Judge Marshall signed day 4 of the case, when Bill Thompson for the state and Ann Taylor for the defense entered a stipulation asking Judge Marshall to enter that gag order. That gag order was in effect until after Mr. Kohberger pled guilty, because the intervenors, the interested parties, the media, came in July of 2025 and persuaded Judge Hippler to set it aside. Now, with respect to this case, EWU Media versus City of Moscow, Moscow Police Department, there is a matter that is coming up May 18th, 2026. Oral argument. This is before Judge Megan E. Marshall. And this was based on a court order that Judge Marshall entered March 13th, 2026, setting a briefing schedule and scheduling oral argument in this matter. It will be May 18th, 2026. That is oral argument. That's a hearing. 10:30 a.m. via Zoom. Will it be live streamed? as the hearing that Judge Marshall heard last year when Laramie et al. Versus City of Moscow, Moscow Police Department entered her courtroom. It was a Zoom proceeding. It was live streamed from Judge Marshall's courtroom. We are attempting to find out that question at this time. And when we receive further details, we will be sure to notify you. But again, the breaking news is that there is a hearing coming up May 18th, 2026, before Judge Megan E. Marshall, also the first judge in the Brian C. Koberger case, for this matter dealing with the disclosure of public records. Until next time, this is Kathy. Thank you for joining us here today.